Elon Musk is known for his innovative and bold approach to business. Although there are no magical secrets to becoming a millionaire, there are certain principles and habits that Musk has demonstrated throughout his career. The net worth of the founder of Tesla and SpaceX surpassed $185 billion, according to Bloomberg's Billionaires Index, after the electric car company's stock price increased this Thursday and it reached a market value of $700 billion. Although other lists, like Forbes, still place him behind Bezos, his success is undeniable. What's his secret? A few years ago, he spoke for almost an hour exactly about this. To mark his new milestone, we decided to dust off the interview and share it with you. So here is Elon Musk's guide to success in business. 1. It's not about the money. This is absolutely fundamental to Musk's attitude towards business. Elon Musk said, "It's not like I have a ton of cash somewhere," he said. "It's just that I have a certain amount of stock in Tesla, SpaceX, and SolarCity, and the market values those stocks." He has nothing against the pursuit of wealth if it is done in an ethical and good way, but he said that's not what drives him. The entrepreneur believes that most of his money will be spent on building a base on Mars, and he wouldn't be surprised if the project consumes his entire fortune. In fact, like Bill Gates, he would probably consider ending his life with billions in the bank as a sign of failure for not having made good use of that money. 2. Follow your passions. That Mars base is a hint of what Musk believes is the key to success. You want things in the future to be better, he said. You want these new and exciting things that improve life. Take SpaceX, for example. Musk told me he created the company because he was frustrated that the U.S. space program was not more ambitious. "I kept expecting us to go beyond Earth and put a person on Mars, have a base on the moon, and have, very frequent orbital flights," he said. Since that wasn't happening, he came up with the idea of the Mars Oasis mission, which aimed to send a small greenhouse to the red planet. The idea was to get people excited about space again and persuade the U.S. government to increase NASA's budget. While trying to get that idea off the ground, he realized that the problem was not a lack of will, but rather a lack of a way to do it. Space technology was far more expensive than necessary. And voila! SpaceX was born, the world's cheapest rocket launching business. But here's the important part: his goal was not to make money, but to get a person to Mars. Musk said he considers himself an engineer rather than an investor, and what wakes him up in the morning is the desire to solve technical problems. That's his criterion for progress, rather than the dollars in the bank. He knows that every obstacle his companies overcome helps everyone else trying to solve the same problem, and it's solved forever. That's why, shortly before we met, the entrepreneur had announced that he was going to release all of Tesla's patents to accelerate the development of electric vehicles worldwide. 3. Don't be afraid to think big. One of the truly remarkable things about Musk's businesses is how bold they are. He wants to revolutionize the car industry, colonize Mars, build ultra-fast trains and vacuum tunnels, integrate artificial intelligence into human brains, and change the solar and battery industries. His tunneling business is called the Boring Company. But all his projects share a common thread. They are the kind of futuristic fantasies you would find in a children's magazine from the early 1980s. Musk doesn't hide the fact that he was inspired by the books and movies he consumed as a child in South Africa. Which brings us to Musk's third piece of advice: don't hold yourself back. He believes that having low ambitions is built into the incentive structures of most companies. Too many companies are incrementalists, he said. If you're the CEO of a big company and your goal is something that's a modest improvement, and it takes longer than expected and doesn't work so well, then no one will blame you, he told me. You can say it wasn't your fault, it was the suppliers. If you're bold and aim for a truly revolutionary improvement, and it doesn't work, you will definitely be fired, Musk argues. He says this is why most companies focus on making small improvements to their existing products instead of daring to imagine entirely new ones. So, his advice is to make sure you're working on what he calls things that are going to matter. Two things stand out in Musk's personal hierarchy of things that matter. First, accelerating the transition away from fossil fuels. Here's what the entrepreneur said about it. We are turning to deep gas fields and deep oil fields that haven't seen sunlight since the Cambrian era. If the last time something saw sunlight was when the most complex organism was a sponge, you really have to ask yourself if that's a smart decision. Second, he wants to ensure the long-term survival of humanity by colonizing Mars and making life multiplanetary. As I say, think big. 4. Be ready to take risks. This one is obvious. You need to have skin in the game to do well, but Musk has taken more risks than most. In 2002, he had sold his shares in his first two companies, a virtual city guide called Zip2 and the online payment company PayPal. He had just turned 30 and had nearly $200 million in the bank. He says his plan was to put half of his fortune into business ventures and keep the other half. Things didn't turn out that way. When I met him, he had just emerged from the darkest period of his business life. His new companies faced all kinds of problems. The first 3 launches of SpaceX had failed, and Tesla was dealing with all kinds of production, supply chain, and design issues. Then the financial crisis hit. Musk said he faced a tough choice. I could keep the money and let the companies die, or invest what I had left and maybe there was a chance. He kept spending money. At one point, he was so in debt that he had to borrow money from friends just to pay for his living expenses, he said. At that moment, was he scared by the prospect of bankruptcy? He says, no, my kids would have had to go to public school. Big deal. I went to a public school. 5. Ignore the critics. What really surprised him, and in 2014 it was clear he was still very upset about it, was the delight many experts and commentators took in his struggles. The liberal schadenfreude, pleasure from someone else's misfortune, was really amazing, Musk said. There were several blogs counting down the time until Tesla's death. I think people wanted him to fail because there's a kind of arrogance in his ambition. Musk rejects this idea. I think it would be arrogant if we said we are definitely going to do it, rather than that we aspire to do it, and that we are going to do our best. This leads us to Musk's next lesson on business success: don't listen to the critics. He told me he didn't believe SpaceX or Tesla would ever make money when he created them, and the truth is, no one else believed it either. But he ignored the doomsayers and kept moving forward anyway. Why? Remember, this is a man who measures success based on the important problems he has solved, not on how much money he has made. Think about how liberating this approach is. He doesn't worry about looking foolish if his big financial bet doesn't pay off. What matters to him is pursuing important ideas. This makes decision-making much simpler because he can focus on what he truly believes matters. And the market seems to like what he's doing. In October, the American investment bank Morgan Stanley valued SpaceX at $100 billion. The company has transformed the spaceflight market, but what must make Musk most proud is how his company has revitalized the U.S. space program. In 2020, his Crew Dragon rockets carried 6 astronauts to the International Space Station, the first such missions from U.S. soil since the space shuttles were retired in 2011. 6. Have fun. Follow this guide, and with a little luck, you will also become incredibly rich and famous. Then you can start coming out of your shell. Musk is famous for being a workaholic. He brags about working 120 hours a week to keep Tesla Model 3 production on track. He has stirred controversy around his figure with defamation lawsuits, live drug use, and social media outbursts. In 2018, he got in trouble with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the U.S. financial regulator, when he tweeted that he planned to take Tesla public. When the COVID-19 pandemic forced Tesla to shut down production at its factory in the San Francisco Bay Area, he became a strong opponent of coronavirus restrictions. On Twitter, he called the panic over the virus dumb and described stay-at-home orders as forcibly imprisoning people, calling them fascist and a violation of constitutional rights. He then announced plans to sell his physical possessions, saying they weigh him down. Days later, he said on Twitter that his newborn son would be named XAEA12 Musk. However, his unpredictable behavior doesn't seem to have affected his businesses, and the entrepreneur remains as ambitious as ever. In September, Musk claimed Tesla would have a compelling $25,000 car within 3 years, and said all of the company's new cars would soon be fully autonomous. However, his year ended with a true blast in December, when SpaceX tested its Starship launch vehicle, which is expected to take the first humans to Mars. The giant rocket exploded upon crashing 6 minutes after launch. But Musk praised the test as an amazing success. Lessons you can apply. Define bold goals and pursue them with dedication. Continuously learn and dive into new areas of knowledge. Don't fear calculated risks if you strongly believe in your ideas. Work hard and be persistent, even when things get tough. And if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe and give this video a like. Remember, it's free, and it helps us continue creating quality content for you. See you soon.